Good morning. Apologies for there being no mass today. We had difficulty with recording last night. We celebrate today the Feast of the Archangels. It's celebrating very much the presence of God in the lives of each one of us. It's very difficult for us to appreciate the fact that God can look with eyes of love equally on 7 billion people. And the angels are seen very much as the ones who keep that communication going. It's really God speaking directly to us, his people. It's God bringing messages of hope, messages of promise. What we have in our lives are many, many opportunities of communicating with each other. And the whole idea of the angels, archangels, is to try and emphasize that God's communication to us is a communication that is perfect, a communication that is very, very personal, very, very individual. If you've never watched the film The Green Book, very different from The Green Mile, then you've missed a treat. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. It's a story of a professional piano player, and he's black, and he hires a fairly bigoted, racist guy as his chauffeur and bodyguard. And as the film progresses, you see the relationship between them developing and the frostiness from both sides mellowing as they realize how interdependent they are becoming. In the film, the piano player is very cultured, the chauffeur fairly down to earth, and his wife has told him that she wants him to send letters to him, because they're going to be on the road for 2 months. And he starts writing, telling her how he's washed his socks and dried them on the television and fairly other mundane things. And the piano player helps him out and encourages him to look around him and explain the things that they see, and through that to explain his own feelings of love for her, and basically gets the message, and he sends these wonderful letters back to his wife. If we think about our communication today, at one time letters were very precious. I know that from myself, from just being at school, from away at school when I was 11. Letters are really important, really significant, and they help to keep that communication, but not just banal communication, very, very personal togetherness. Problem today is text messages, and texting language in particular is so very sort of quick. It's often not thoughtless, but it's not thoughtful. Not in the sense that we don't often take too long to think about what we're writing. Whereas if you sit down with a pen and a piece of paper, especially in the days when you had to keep dipping your pen in the ink, it took time, and it emphasized just the very writing without the content. The very writing itself emphasized the fact that you were prepared to take time for somebody. When we celebrate any of the feasts of the angels, we celebrate the fact that God wants the best communication with us. He doesn't want to just send us text messages. He doesn't want just to send us a quick email. He wants us to really appreciate that he wants the best for us, and he gives the best to each one of us. And our readings today emphasize very strongly the fact that God is all powerful. He's way above each one of us, and yet he stoops down to be with us. He wants to take time. The word angel literally means communication, means messenger. It's God wanting to speak to each one of us in a very individual and very personal way. There's nothing quick. There's nothing that's not thoughtful, nothing that's not thought-provoking. Today there's a lot of talk about people's spirituality, was talking to somebody yesterday at a cemetery, and he was talking about woodland burial sites, which I very much agree with. But then he said that people have spirituality today, but they're not necessarily religious, and that's fair enough. I can accept that. The problem is, if you have a spirituality that doesn't have a foundation, if you have a spirituality where you say, "Oh, I've got my relationship with God," then that's fine. That's not a problem. But where's the foundation? The church has many faults and failings. If you look at the history of the church, it's very dark at times. Lots of things that happen in the church today that make people scratch their heads a little bit, make people wonder, is this a real vehicle of God's presence in our world? And the short answer is yes. Because without the presence of God, and with all the faults and failings of the church throughout the centuries, the presence of God has got to have been there. Otherwise, we would never have survived. Spirituality is an individual thing between God and ourselves, but it needs a firm basis, a firm foundation. Sadly, people are building their houses on sand an awful lot today, having that sort of personal spirituality. But when things go difficult, when things go wrong, that's when the house can fall down. When we build our spirituality on our relationship with God and His church, it's on a firm foundation. It might be rocky at times, but it always holds firm. Might not be the best decorated house that we want, might not be the most glamorous of all places, but it's a place with a firm foundation. It's a place of belonging. The angels tell us we belong to God. He wants a personal relationship with each one of us and wants us to know that His love for us is absolute and perfect. And His love comes to us through the message of the angels, through the message of the church, through all the people throughout history who have embraced God's love in their lives and passed on that message to others. We belong to God and we belong to each other. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. God bless.